Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, Olivier Renard, sudden departure as leaves Montreal in doubt. Inter Miami escapes from Saputo Stadium with 3 points, and amazing support at Centre Claude Robillard for CS Saint Laurent. That and a lot more on episode 179 of The Ball is Round. And I'm joined as usual by my good friend Elias Gregoriadis. Hey Elias, how are you today?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's been a busy week, so happy to recap all this nonsense.
Yeah, super busy week. Unfortunately, Eve cannot be with us today. So happy Mother's Day, first of all, to all of you from The Ball is Round, from Elias, myself, and of course, Eve. And hopefully, you'll have fun, or at least you'll be happy to listen to us tonight. Let's start this.
Right away.
The Ball is Round is the place where we dissect the latest in the CF Montreal sphere with all the passion and fury it deserves. If you're tuning in expecting rainbows and sunshine, you might want to adjust your expectations because today we're delving into the depth of disbelief and rage. Why, you ask? Well, in case you are living under a rock, prepare yourself for a bombshell that's rocked the very foundation of CF Montreal fandom. Olivier Renard departure. Yeah, you heard that right. Olivier Renard, the visionary, the disruptor, the game changer, gone. Just like that. Can you believe it? Because honestly, I can't. I mean, let's just take a moment to process this. Despite his many failures, Renard was a driving force behind so much innovation, so many groundbreaking initiatives, and now he's just gone out the door. It's like waking up to find out Superman has retired, except this time there's no alternate universe where he can come back. But hey, you know what? We're not here to wallow in self-pity. We're here to dissect, to analyze, to make sense of this nonsensical. So buckle up because we're about to embark on a roller coaster ride of emotions, opinions, and maybe just maybe a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Welcome again to The Ball is Round, where we just don't talk only about the news, we feel it. Elias, what are you feeling right now?
I mean, Michael said it best. Les supporters méritent mieux. It was the banner that we saw in the supporter section during the game last night. It is what everybody's feeling. Hell, it's what Joey Saputo tweeted all those years ago. Look, I think that speaking as a journalist, I'd love to get a bit more clarity. Gabriel Gervais' media availability was predictably enigmatic. We didn't learn a whole lot. Um, and again, I wasn't expecting for a Victor Wanyama style bombshell fest where everything kind of all the dirty laundry gets aired. We might get some dirty laundry in 5 or 10 years from now on some podcast somewhere. But ultimately, I think that this is uh something that Montrealers and fans of this club have become far too accustomed with, and it's just the concept of one step forward, two steps back, right? And we saw it with going back almost a decade now, and it's been a continuation of this. And most recently we saw it with Nancy and those steps forward, and then the two steps back that last season was, and now the way Nancy left. Then we see again, Laurent Courtois arriving all this offseason, and I tweeted about it. All this work that they did in the offseason to sign Kokoro, sign Yankov, sign Martinez, bring in Laurent Courtois, reinvigorate this fan base in a way that we haven't seen without a superstar in years. I've never seen so much hype around the club without, yes, Joseph Martinez is an MLS superstar, but I'm not talking about, DJ Drogba or Alessandro Nesta. I'm talking about an MLS big name, and they did all this great work to organically grow interest in the club. Yes, Messi helps you sell season tickets to a certain extent, but you sold 15,000 season tickets, right? So you were secure in the knowledge that you were going to be at least what, like 80% full the entire season. All you had to do was put out promising product, not even good product, just promising product, good players, promote, Montreal's footballing scene with all the good talent that you've got from your academy and you've got from your youngsters, and challenge for the playoffs. So the blueprint was there, and it was by no means a tall task. It wasn't like we were asking them for the moon. It wasn't like the expectations were insanely high. In fact, expectations were wildly low across the league. And I think that expectations in Montreal were low. So they really had everything going for them. And it took them a week to implode. It took two pieces of news, which is the face of your franchise from a player standpoint, right? And your future captain allegedly requesting a trade. And then what can only be assumed as the fallout from that trade request, resulting in the driving force behind this entirely new identity, like you said, leaving. Now, remains to be seen whether or not Vasily Kremanzidis stays with the club. I do hope he does, because his inter-MLS trades have been the best in MLS, I think. Or if not the best, among the best in the league. I think in terms of value, in terms of bang for your buck, they do the best inter-MLS business around. And Vasily Kremanzidis is one of the driving forces behind that. Now, that remains to be seen, right? Because they did work very well together. And, if there really is some kind of disconnect between the technical staff and the ownership, then I don't know why Kremanzidis would stay. I still think that there's about 1,000 different layers of this onion to peel back, which is why it's so frustrating to kind of just have them be so tight-lipped about this. But I also think that that kind of reinforces the fact that they know, not that they know that they're in the wrong, but they know that this will look terrible if the truth comes out. Because Olivier Renard has never been one to actively seek out drama, right? He's always been one. In fact, he avoids it at all costs. Even when you saw it with
Yeah.
Kai Kamara saga, you saw it with everything going down. Every single time there's even the potential for drama, he's like, I'm removing myself from this, and I just want to focus on the club. So this by no means looks good for the club. And I think the fact that we don't know enough, should we know the truth, it'll look even worse. And there would be, you know, there'd be a whole lot more than just a banner on the supporter section if we knew the whole truth, I think. So there's still a whole lot of fallout to be processed, because we don't know who the next sporting director is. Gabriel Javes filling in the interim, but it's it's incredibly worrisome how little it feels like this is being this change, this departure has had almost no effect on the ownership or the state of things.
Yeah, there's so much stuff to say around this. But first of all, I want to talk about the tweet that you sent right after we learned the news. CF Montreal managing to win an entire offseason of smart moves, goodwill building, and organic fan engagement in just 1 week is impressive. Like, this is some top notch self destruction. That was your first feelings when you heard the news.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of people are saying, yeah, you know what, we're podcasters, journalists on your part. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a podcaster. And yes, of course, we're supposed to be neutral as much as possible, analyze things with a clear mind. But at the end of the day, we're still Montrealers. We still have feelings towards this club. It is our local club. It is the club of our city. It is the club that we have seen since God knows when. When you see that, how disappointed are you looking at all these years where you thought that Montreal was finally going into the right direction after so many good years of not even having any kind of ambitions.
I thought they had. That's the worst part is that this offseason really did feel like a turning of a corner, right? Because not look they stayed true to their mission, which is youth, young footballers, bringing them in and elevating them. Because yes, Joseph Martinez is getting up there in age, but Yankov, Kokoro, Sosa, well, even Breza, right? These are all younger players. These are all players that have a higher ceiling than what we currently see on them. So the project was still respected. In fact, I think the project was elevated because the quality these players bring in is very impressive, and it's MLS starting caliber players. So yeah, I mean it's obviously disappointing, and yeah, we've had what has it been now? It's been 4 days, and it's still kind of tough to wrap your head around the fact that Olivier Renard is not going to be around because in what in less than 5 years he's managed to become such an institution and to really leave an imprint on this club in a way that it's going to take a long time for his influence to leave this club. And that's my biggest concern is that this project, which had so much investment from not just the players and the technical staff, but the fans, is now at risk of being undone, depending on who picks up the reins and who wins out on this battle of wills that's apparently going on between that apparently was going on between Olivier Renard and his people loyal to him and Joey Saputo. So I think that is probably the biggest question mark is who picks up where Renard left off and if they pick up where he left off.
I don't know. Honestly, I have. Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you said, but honestly, I have a very tough time swallowing it. I just can't understand where we're going. I can't understand. I'm angry. I'm like super
I mean,
angry.
rightfully so.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, what are we doing? What is the plan? What are we doing? And it looks like a panic move once again. Usually when you decide to fire someone or to sack someone or to put an end of the collaboration between a party and another one, just to be a bit more politically correct, you have an idea behind this of the next steps to take right now. And that's what's really scaring me. Gabriel Gervais is saying, I want to take a step back. I want to analyze everything. But why didn't you do that before? Like you just said at the the press conference, he just said, we have been having some tough discussions and some differences in ideologies and in strategies for the last few months and not the last few days. He said it's been going on a while. So, like, you knew this could happen. You knew that, you weren't on the same page. You weren't on the same wavelength. You knew that, what? At one point, this guy might go, or I might fire him, right? We do have a question from Patrick saying, "Think he was fired?" I think Renard left. Yeah, that's the politically correct. That's the politically correct. Yeah, he left because he wasn't given a choice, saying, you either do this or what. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to do this because we decided that you need to do this. So I don't think he did that. He had a choice, right? So at the end of the day, because you're going so much, in opposition to what he thinks, you knew that this was a possibility. Where's the plan B? Where's the plan C? You're an executive. You are an owner. You are a president. Like, what is your plan? You have to have a plan. Nobody's eternal. right? And especially in soccer, especially in soccer. And I love what Peter Holy is asking here. And now he's out. Who want to take the job now? Who wants to come and take the job, the job in CF Montreal with that kind of hierarchy, that kind of club, of organization, where unfortunately you're every every person that you collaborated with decided to leave. Wilfried Nancy is leaving, and then Olivier Renard is leaving, and that's also something that was said also by, I think it was again Peter Holy, saying last June. It wasn't last June. It was June 2022. Just to be precise, he signed a permanent contract with the club with no term. It's a year and 11 months ago, and became a vice president. Like, even if you're given some guarantees, even if you're given a permanent position within a football club, and like, you know how rare this is.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot even become. You're not safe. You're not guaranteed. There's no guarantees whatsoever. And you know what? You're done. You're gone. Right? So at one point, you're like, why? What is the plan? Just answer me, Elias. What is the plan? How can we still support? How can the fans can still stand behind this club? How can, okay, you know what? You sold a project. You said we're gonna be a club that's gonna focus on local talent. We're gonna focus on homegrown players. We're gonna be able to grow our talent because we have so much talent in Quebec, and I completely agree with that. I love that project because, you know me, play the youth, right? I always say that, play the youth. I love this. Okay, I don't care about our salary, the salary being, the sum of salaries being the lowest of the league. I really don't care. Okay, that's not important for me. Okay, but you know what? You decided to go on a project, and when someone blooms and becomes a Canadian international, you don't give him the contract he deserves. So at what point should I believe you as a fan? I can't believe you with the project that you yourself have declared you were going to take. I can't believe you because when you decide to sign someone a permanent position, he leaves a year and 11 months later. And then again, I don't see any changes in the sporting philosophy where, yeah, you know what? You sold players. Those players, this money is not reinjected within the club. And if it is, we don't know how it was reinjected. You know what? If I saw, a new soccer field at Centre Michele, I would have said, you know what? Okay, you know what? We see some improvements in the facilities. We didn't see shit. We didn't see shit at all. So at what point you look at this and you're like, okay, now what? Like Peter Holy said, now what? Elias, you're the optimistic guy between us three.
Yeah.
Give me an answer, because honestly, I don't have one. I don't have one for the fans. I have one for myself. I know stuff. I have a few people, talking to me and everything. And usually there's always a silver lining. There's always something. You always say, there's a hope here. They might be doing something here. But right now, I have nothing. Fuck all. Nothing.
Yeah, that's the worst part, is that, we were talked about, in the off season, that big interview with between Gabriel Gervais and Jean-François Théotonio, where he outlined, the next 5 years of the infrastructure of the club, right? But there's been no follow-up on that. There's been no, the only kind of infrastructural change is that they're doing exploratory construction on Olympic Stadium. It's not even like renovations. It's
that's
just
not CF
exploratory.
Montreal.
if anything, it screwed up CF Montreal's offseason because they had a week of offseason at home, and the rest
But
of it
that
was spent
has
away from.
yeah, but
But
Elias,
that's
that
what I'm
has
saying.
nothing to do
That
with CF
highlights
Montreal.
the lack of news. That highlights the lack of development or progression in this. And I forget who mentioned it earlier in the show, but talking about reinvesting money in the club. I don't care if if you use it to buy bigger players or even
It was
even bigger youngsters.
Patrick.
Yes, it was Patrick. Thank you. But there has to be some kind of sign that it's money well spent, because the technical staff is the same. I have no problem with the technical staff. The infrastructure is the same. That's the big problem. You haven't gone out and bought big players. Nobody can look at the state of the club from in any way and be like, that's where the money from Alistair Johnson went. That's where the money from Ismail Kone went. That's where the money from Georgi Mihailovic went. I could not tell you, gun to my head, I could not tell you where the money went. And I understand that, for the last however many years, Joey Saputo and the Saputo family has been taking a loss on this. But at the
Yeah,
end of
but
the day,
Tate is talking about this, and let's read his comments. He says this seems bigger than Joey Saputo over the last few years. You keep hearing owners, which is plural. This may be more family decisions than Joey's. And then he adds, I speculate that the club lost a lot of money during pandemic, and dad and or other family members said no more. You need to balance the books, or you are only allowed to lose X per year moving on.
but the thing is, that's not how a club works. Especially when, yeah, you've lost money, but at the end of the day, how much money did you spend on this club, and how much money is your club worth right now? Every MLS club is worth at least like $500 million now. The league is the most popular it's ever been. The league is the more profitable it's ever been. And I understand that you personally, or you maybe from a balance sheet perspective, are losing money year after year, but the value of your club, just the fact that it's in MLS, is skyrocketing, which means
Yeah,
you want to increase value, you want to increase your bottom line, you have to put the money into it. You can't just assume that from the heavens you're gonna go and you're gonna sell out every game. You can't. You're not the Canadians. You can't assume that with your ragtag group of players and the power of friendship that you're gonna win the Supporter Shield and win the MLS Cup and win the treble and win all this and get all this prize money from competitions. You can't assume all these things because that's not how soccer works. That's how football works. Not everybody is Leicester City where they win a miracle, right? You need to construct this, and that takes time and that takes money, right? Just because you're not spending DP money doesn't mean that you can't be spending money on players, right? Whether it's TAM, whether it's GAM, whether it's however you spend your money, there has to be stuff brought in. There has to be investment in the club, and this is the first year that it's happened in a significant way when we talk about the players brought in. But at the same time, you're going to take the main architect of all this, and we circle back to Olivier Renard now. You're going to take the main architect of all this, and you're going to show him the door, and you're going to go, we don't see eye to eye, so get out. That can't be the way you do business.
no, cannot.
Because it showed. It finally started to pay off. Because yes, again, part of the season tickets was messy, but you bring in the last 12 months, you bring in
Yeah, you have
you
Peter
bring in
Holy
Martin. Peter,
giving you
there you go.
the thing.
He lines it up perfectly for you. And on top of that, you do incredible bang for your buck business when you talk about Juan, when you talk about Raheem Edwards, when you talk about even someone like Bryce Duke, right? Who maybe hasn't been the world beater that people expected him to be. But Ariel Lassiter has turned out to be, he was thrown in almost as like a gimme in that trade, it feels like, but he's been arguably more important than Bryce Duke in the summation. So it shows that you're spending money now and it's paying off.
Yeah, but you know what, Elias? You're spending MLS money. You're not spending money.
Not with Kokoro, not with Martinez, not with Mahala, yes. But those three players, if you include Yankov, that's not MLS money. That's not monopoly money. That is
That's
transfer
discretion.
money. That
Yeah,
that's your budget.
yeah, but
At the end
that's
of
again your budget, but that doesn't come straight from the owner's pockets.
No,
right?
but the thing is, money has been
That's
spent now.
I understand. Money is spent, but within the MLS budget. You're not seeing any investment from the owner. Not at all. Zero. At one point, Joey Saputo said, let the fans come and they'll get what they came for. And I think Patrick said it at one point here on one of our episodes, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. He said, at one point, Joey said that when we're going to be sold out every game, we're going to have, X amount of season ticket holders, we're going to invest in the club. That's what the fans did. There's no investment from the owner's part. At one point, you're going to have to answer to those fans. And yesterday, you saw what Michael said, les supporters méritent mieux, the fans deserve better, a sentence that was said by Joey Saputo in 2014. And the club came and the officials came to withdraw that banner, to take it away, to confiscate it.
Yeah, Tony spoke about that.
Like, what the hell is this? What's going
That's
on?
a great way to guarantee an even bigger banner on Wednesday. That's a great way to
But at one point, where do you look yourself in the mirror? At what time do you look yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what? I might be doing something wrong. At one point, you know what? Joey's the owner. Okay, Joey and all the owners. Okay, they're the owners. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's their toy to play with. I completely understand. But at one point, you're going to play with their toy all alone, and people are not going to following it. I'm not going to follow it anymore because you need people, you need the fans, and right now you're not helping the fans at all.
I find it kind of ironic because last year, Olivier Renard was one of the biggest defenders of Joey Saputo, and he spoke about Joey's impact on Quebec soccer. And at the end of the day, my stance on all of this, not necessarily Olivier Renard, but just the way that its ownership is handling this, is Joey Saputo will forever be one of the most important figures in the history of not just Quebec soccer, but Canadian soccer, hands down. Right? The amount of, especially in the early days, the amount of time and money and blood and sweat that he put into building the game cannot be overstated. But at the end of the day, if you're a dinosaur in sport or in anything in life, if you keep acting like a dinosaur, you keep acting like this is 2010 2012 MLS, you're still
1996 MLS, man.
If you keep operating like that, you're going to fall by the wayside. So I hate the sentence, what have you done? It's not what have you done for me, what have you done for me lately? I hate that sentence as a concept because it's kind of dismissive of the past. Joey Saputo and the Saputo family is arguably the most important figure in Quebec soccer, but as a builder. But at the end of the day, your job as an owner is not just to have built the infrastructure that soccer still stands on. Because infrastructure needs to be updated. I'm not talking about Centre Nutrien. I'm talking about the cultural infrastructure of soccer. The way that your professional club is operated and the way that your professional club is perceived, not just from Montrealers and from Quebecers, but from everybody.
But they did that with Olivier Renard. They updated it. But they were trying to update it.
They tried. And Olivier Renard, at every corner, it felt like he was getting hamstrung. Right? Yeah. Because you have first of all, COVID obviously throws a wrench in it. Fine. But the thing is, COVID screwed up your plans. COVID screwed up everybody's plans. So you move on from that. You have Wilfried Nancy. You have the best regular season in club history. And again, the project is hamstrung when Joey Saputo and Wilfried Nancy don't see eye to eye. So now you take 2 steps back. And then finally, again this season, you're on the right track. And then again, Olivier Renard feels like he gets hamstrung. So at some point, the history And the fact that you did so much to build the sport in this province can only get you so far when everyone has not only caught up to you but surpassed you and is starting to lap you from an infrastructure, from a cultural standpoint now, right? From a footballing standpoint, we'll talk about the game later, but it was excellent game, excellent display of football, all that stuff. I'm talking now from an administrative standpoint. They're so far behind, Hadi, that it's
I
almost
know,
becoming
I know.
it's beyond an emergency. It's
I
DEFCON
know.
1 at this point.
Honestly, I'm gonna tell you something. I love Stade Saputo. Okay, I don't see, like, I've been to soccer stadiums in Europe that are completely out of date. Right. I think that Stade Saputo is still pretty good, but when you look at the MLS standards, we're far behind right now. I completely agree with you. Okay, you have to follow the rest of the league. The rest of the league is starting to build something that is out of the ordinary. If you go to see San Diego, what they're trying to do, the new franchise, this looks awesome, and we're so far behind. But
Mhm.
at the same time, you go see San Jose, you go see Houston, you go see Dallas. The infrastructures are not better than Satsaputo, right? I think that at one point you have to give something to the fans. You have to give a hope to the fans. Now, what are the options available for Gabriel Gervais right now? Because right now, what does he need to do? And that's one of the questions that we have from a lot of people. What now? Peter Holy asked it a bit earlier when we Peter Holy. He asked it a bit earlier when we shared that. We also had that was asked from us a bit earlier before the show from Matt B saying, "My question is, what now?" Um, and we said it at the beginning of the pod. We said we're here first of all to analyze, to make sense of the nonsensical, but we're also here to maybe give a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. So where is that glimmer of hope, Elias?
Sure, you
Because
turn to the
at the end of the
optimist when you
day,
ask.
no, but you know what? At the end
Yeah.
of the day, okay, I'm gonna give you a few answers that our listeners have given us right now. First of all, we have Chan that says we need Divio caliber spending, not Kokaro. I love Kokaro, by the way. So that's one way of trying to redeem yourself. Okay. You have, other people thinking a bit more uh, negatively with Wellington saying, I'm not renewing my season ticket for 2025, which is normal. And it's a normal reaction. You know what?
You
It
won't be
is
the
a
only
normal
one.
reaction.
You
And he's
won't be
not
the
going to
only
be the
one.
only one. But how can you prevent that? How can you prevent that? Knowing what Chan just said, the good news, Impact won't get relegated. In Europe, they would get relegated a long time ago because of bad management and owner. So, and so, like, where's the glimmer of hope? What does Gabriel Gervais need to do? Because don't forget, we have a transfer window coming in a couple of months.
Yep. The
So
glimmer
he's
of
going to
hope.
have options.
The glimmer of hope is, I feel like it segues nicely into the second topic that we're talking about, which is the game.
Yeah.
Which is the only glimmer of hope is the on-field product, because you see the lineup they put out and the amount of people they're missing, and the amount, not just the amount of people, the amount of vital people they're missing, and you see that performance against not just any team, you see it against the hottest team in MLS, the most nigh dominant team in MLS, and you see especially that first half performance they put on. That is your glimmer of hope. The problem is, relaying to Wellington's point about a season ticket, we talked about it at the beginning of the year. Messi drove a lot of the season ticket sales because people wanted that guaranteed Messi ticket. How are you going to keep them? You almost doubled your season ticket holders. How are you going to retain that number now? Doesn't matter how good you are on the field. If every single waking moment of a CF Montreal's fan life is perpetually worried that they're going to have the rug pulled out from underneath them, then why would they invest emotionally and financially in this club? because you can have a team play that well, and you could have Kokoro, Martinez come back, Sosa is finally healthy, Yankov is finally healthy, all this stuff, Mahala comes back, and you're firing on all cylinders, and it's fun to watch, and that will keep a lot of butts in seats. But there will be just as many that go, how are they going to screw this up now?
Yeah. But
Because
exactly.
it's been wired like that now because they've been hurt so many times now.
Yeah.
So everyone's going, I want to buy season tickets, but I have no guarantee that this fun team that I just watched, instead of building on that and expanding like we see so many clubs do, they're going to implode for some reason out of the players and the manager's control for some off-field nonsense. That is my concern, and that is why I think it's going to be a lot more difficult to retain so many season ticket holders.
But you didn't give a glimmer of hope.
The on-field.
Yeah, on-field.
The game last night was
and you know
awesome.
what?
The game against Columbus is going to be another great litmus test.
Oh man, this is gonna be
The
tough.
Canadian
This is
Classic
gonna
on
be
the
tough.
weekend.
Yeah,
This might be the most important week of the season.
Yeah.
If
You
they
know
get
what?
good results.
I agree. Those two games are going to be very, very, very important. And Peter Holy says Martinez, Kokora, and Opoku injuries. Renard wants to add something before the window close. Without this injury, Renard is still with the Impact today. I don't think so, Peter. From what I understood, it's a lot more than just injuries. It's a lot more than Chouanière only. It's been going on for weeks and months. So it's not only Chouanière. Chouanière was just, the cherry on the cake, the icing on the whatever, the nail on the coffin, whatever sentence you want to use, the extra amount of frustration that tipped the whole thing the other way. And I want to jump also on what Wellington is saying. I thought this squad will be able to make it to the playoffs this year. I don't think so anymore. I hope they surprise me. Honestly, we're too far from the playoff picture right now. If you look at the standings, we're at 12 points. We're like 3 points away from sixth place. So everything can change pretty easily. So no, I still like that team. I still think that we have a potential. So let's wait and see for that. But the glimmer of hope, as you said, I agree with you, is the product on the field. And as you said, it's a good segue for the next point. But before we go to the next point, I want to talk about Olivier Renard because it's the end of an era. Since 2019, it is the end of an era.
5 years is an era, for sure.
I want you, on the top of your head, to give me the best and worst of Olivier Renard in a nutshell.
The best? The best was...
Without thinking too much, right?
Okay, the best was the playoff win against Orlando and Stade Saputo in 2022. That okay. I was convinced. I was convinced. I drank the Kool-Aid, everything. Of course, NYCFC is the boogeyman for CF Montreal, and that happens. But I was sold. The worst, Bjorn Johnson. No,
yeah, you can say it for sure. Bjorn Johnson.
I think Bjorn Johnson, not because of his performance, not because of that. I think because of the trauma and the reluctance to trust designated players that can still be felt today. I think that did more damage to the DP aspirations of the club than, did more damage than anything Bjorn Johnson failed to do.
Yeah, I wanted to say Bjorn Johnson, but you know what? I'll think of something else. But the best for me, and for me, it's like the number one is Sergei Mihailovic. The trade for Sergei Mihailovic,
yeah, absolutely,
was awesome. The results that Mihailovic brought on the pitch was awesome, and then you were able to sell him again for a good amount of money. So it's a win-win-win-win-win situation.
I'm now thinking about Georgie and Kyoto together.
That I loved. The worst decision in my opinion, it is Kyoto, but Kyoto last year.
Okay.
Kyoto last year only. I think that we all knew after 2022 that Kyoto, during the offseason, when Kyoto was starting to be stupid all across the globe, we all knew that Kyoto shouldn't be back with the team. And the sporting director should have realized that. And I think that was, we always say in French, l'année en trop, the extra year, the year where you can't, you know that you have not a finished product, but yeah, it was a finished product. And you need to know, as a sporting director, you need to know when your product is at the end. And he wasn't able to see that. And of course,
that's a
it's
good
easy
point.
for me to say afterwards and
In
looking
hindsight,
at this and in hindsight, but you know what? I'm not on the pitch with him. I'm not having the contract negotiations. I'm not doing anything of all that. So I don't know. I think that for me was very, very disappointing. But still, if I have to give a final grade for Olivier Renard uh, on on uh, on his tenure with CF Montreal, for me it's a B plus. It's a B plus and easily a B plus. I think he could have been a lot higher than that if he had some, maybe a better year in 2023 and maybe not chosen Fernando Sada as a coach. That's also something that was pretty bad. But B plus for me. You have your grade. You can, everyone that's listening, go ahead with your grade on Olivier Renard's tenure. So you can go with whatever grade you.
honestly, only because it was cut short, a B minus.
B minus. Oh
I
wow,
only
that's the
be,
first time that you're.
because the seeds planted were worthy of an A, but we didn't get to see it because of the fact, like, it's always gonna tie back to this, but one step forward, two steps back. Every time you would look at something, you go, this is gonna result in an A grade, and then something would shoot it in the knee. So I would
Patrick
give it a
says
B
B.
minus. I would give it a B minus only because he kept on having shit happen to him. Sometimes out of his control, sometimes in his control, often out of his control. Yeah.
Okay, so B minus for you. Patrick said B for him. Holy Gale, Holy Gale says B plus like me. Tate goes with an A minus, and
One
Wellington
optimist.
goes with a B positive, which is very surprising from Wellington. And Peter says a B. So you know what? We're not far, all of us. I think we're around the same. We all have the same grade for Olivier Renard. You know, between a minus and a plus, there's not a lot to there's not a lot of difference. But you know what? End of an era. Very, very curious to see what are the next step for the clubs. Honestly, I'm going to tell you something. I've been covering CF Montreal since 2017, so it's been now 7 years. It's been a while now, covering, doing podcasts, going to training, going to whatever, and I lived through the rebrand. I lived through so many really shitty decisions, and this is not going to change for me. I'm still going to follow the club. I'm still going to cover the club, but at the same time, right now, I'm very, very upset and very angry. So hopefully we're going to see a glimmer of hope somewhere, because honestly, I have a hard time seeing it right now. And I said that to
Understandable.
a few people at the club, saying, you know what, guys, this needs to be fixed. But you know, who am I, right? So let's wait and see if something's gonna happen, and let's talk about CF Montreal on the pitch. That is the glimmer of hope. That game for CF Montreal against Inter Miami. This is going to be super important. And we said it at the beginning of the season. I said it here. I said it also on CanFC, where I do also the podcast in French. For me, that game was super important. Beat Messi, and all those Messi fans, you would maybe convert a few of them. When I say a few, 5%, 10%, whatever it is, you had to beat Messi and Inter Miami. Unfortunately, it's a loss, a 2-3 loss from CF Montreal at home against Inter Miami, just in case didn't hear the news, let's look at the lineup that Laurent Courtois had chosen for this game. So we had Jonathan Sirois in goal. In central defense, we had George Campbell, Joel Waterman, and Fernando Alvarez. As wingbacks, we had Juan on the right. We had Lassiter on the left because Edwards is injured. In the midfield, Piet Chouanière. Up front, we had Duke and Vilsan. And as a lone striker, Mason Toy. So when you looked at that starting 11, Elias, what did you think of Laurent Courtois' decisions?
I didn't hate it. I was, it was bold to go with a two-man midfield again, but all this one of the main themes of this season was votes of confidence. And I don't think there's two players more deserving of a vote of confidence than Mathieu Chouanière and Samuel Piet to handle, that trifecta of doom that is
Yeah.
Messi, Suarez, and Busquets. Because Jordi Alba is not fit, so he didn't make the trip to Montreal. And hey, I was more curious than concerned about how they would approach it. Um, and very surprised about how they deployed Messi in the first half, which kind of almost nullified my concern. But we'll talk about that a bit after. Ultimately, you know what? I think that Mason Toy was probably the only surprise. Given that Dominigankov was available, I would have thought maybe he would have gone to start, but he is coming back from injury, so ultimately, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, no, exactly. I thought it was, you know, the continuation of what Laurent Courtois was trying to build since the beginning of the season. Nothing really that surprised me. I understand that Laurent Courtois needed to really needed to discuss to give his vote of confidence to Mason Toy because he did score a goal, and at one time you need. We all know that Mason Toy has talent, right? It's just that he's not being able to prove it on the pitch, and we'll talk about his performance in a bit.
Mhm.
But he wanted to give him his vote of confidence in this game. So yeah, so I I kind of understand. I kind of understand. I'll answer just one question from Wellington saying, "Do you know why Raheem Edwards did not play yesterday? He's injured. Raheem
Sure.
Edwards injured. He didn't make it with the team. We asked him the question at the pre-game presser, and he said he wasn't going to be with the team and in the 18. So it's normal. So let's talk about that game. Okay. As usual, what we do is that we break it down, position by position. Let's start with the strikers this time because I think that we're going to finish with Sirois, which is a big question mark. So
Yes.
let's start with Mason Toy. Honestly, he was a ghost. He was completely a ghost. And you know what? Sometimes you say, you know what? He wasn't given any chances. The team was playing too defensively. Not yesterday. Honestly, Mason Toy could have been a lot more important in the build-up. And you know what? Another disappointing performance of Mason Toy. I'm gonna give it to you straight, Elias. For me, this player, even if he's amazing and I really love him, and we had him here on the pod, for me, Mason Toy cannot see the pitch anymore. I'm done. I'm done with Mason Toy. He had so many chances. I'm just done. You know what? If you want to give him minutes as a sub, but as a starter, right now he has no confidence whatsoever. He's not doing shit on the pitch. I'm done.
Yeah, I think because the thing is, even that game where he scored, right, didn't do a whole lot much else besides scoring. And I think that therein lies the biggest problem is, you know, yes, with a bit more confidence, he can kind of maybe take his chances. The problem is he doesn't affect the game enough. He
Exactly.
he rarely leaves his imprint on the game, and I think that yes, you could argue service, and you could argue that Jonathan Ivisan being in the form that he was in maybe drew away, but ultimately if you're the number 9, if you're the guy up top, You know, why is Bryce Duke making more runs into the box, into dangerous areas than you are? Right. So I just, he's got to get hungrier. And Samir Pia talked about how, confidence is a really big thing for him, and how, if his confidence is affected, then you could tell that it affects his game. And it's clear, we've seen it for as long as he's been with the club, right? If he's in his own head and he's not confident, it's a different Mason Toy. But I haven't seen a confident Mason Toy in a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in agreement on
Yeah.
Mason Toy, and honestly,
Especially if
just
people are coming back from injury. Yeah, I think Sanusi's ahead of him. Jules Anthony
yeah,
Vincent is obviously ahead of him. Even Dominic Yankoff, I
exactly,
think, is ahead of him. Not even as a
exactly.
striker, but just as an attacker.
But you know what? Let's not talk about Kokoro. Let's not talk, because Kokoro is back at training also, by the way, doing individual
Finally,
work. So
and
individual
so is
work.
the
So,
mustache, by the way, in case you guys were
and
worried.
so the
The
mustache is
mustache
back.
is in fact
So
back.
so that's very, very, very positive. Him being back doing individual work that early, that means that maybe in a couple of weeks he's going to be able to be back on the pitch. Usually, individual work, it takes 2-3 weeks depending on how the injury evolves. So let's wait and see. But it could be he could come back before the end of the month of May, and that's very, very interesting. Now, when you see Mason Toy, if you forget about the injured players, but for me, Dominic Yankov didn't have 90 minutes on the pitch. Okay, so he wasn't able to be in the starting 11. But you look at Sunusi Ibrahim.
Yeah.
This guy has been so good since the beginning of the season. I think again yesterday he had a great showing. I understand that a lot of people are saying, you know what, he's been good because he's a sub, but at one point you're gonna have to retry him as a starter. And for me, that point and that moment is now, because you don't have any other options. Mason Toy is just not doing the trick.
Mhm. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't find that Sanusi grows into a game well. I find that his energy from the offset is exactly what's needed in a super sub, right? Because
Yeah,
as soon as he starts the game off like a firecracker, right? He's running, he's pressing, and everything like that, and sometimes just doesn't grow into the ambiguity of the game well. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing against him as a starter, because I don't really have any other problems with him. So again, I'd be interested to see, just because of the fact that just from a purely from a squad depth perspective, right? Mason Toy is not cutting it. You have no other proper nine, because Jonathan Avicen is really doing his best work as a second striker, kind of like what we saw with Joseph Martinez. Um, and I think that honestly, until Dominic Yankov's ready for a full nine, or at least to start and play at least an hour, I think Snus Ibrahim is your guy. It has to be.
yeah. Good. So let's wait and see. The two men behind Mason Toy, you had Jules Anthony Vilsan and you had Bryce Duke. Let's talk about the two of them this time. I'll let you talk first.
Yeah,
What did you think about those two guys?
I loved it. Right. I mean, I posted a meme about how, jokingly, about how Bryce Duke, when he's feeling himself, is like better than Messi, but like he outplayed
It's
Messi
a
today, so
joke.
I don't
You
know.
know,
He outplayed Messi
it's
yesterday.
Wellington. It's a joke. I know you hate Duke. Okay, it's a joke.
But you can't even say anything about his performance last night, because
I don't agree with that.
let's call a spade a spade. He outplayed Messi last night. That's all I'm gonna say. No, look, Bryce. We talk. I've said this ad nauseum at this point. Bryce Duke at home is a completely different player than Bryce Duke on the road. In possession, he was turning his defenders. He was getting into spots. He was making more audacious passes. He was getting into those spots that you want Bryce Duke to get into. This is the kind of player you spend several million in GAM on, right? He made those runs. He got into the spaces. He found his half spaces where he loves to go so much. He
He
helped
scored a
possess.
goal.
He's he did so much well that I didn't even get to the goal. The goal
Yeah,
was a great finish, great composure, great one. The fact that he wasn't outpaced is also a nice, change of scenery for him. But the fact that he did all those things to the point where I almost forgot that he did score is arguably even more important, because he created a bunch of chances. He put really dangerous balls into very uncomfortable situations for defenders, and that's what you want from your 10. If you're not going to have a 10 that scores and assists like Hani Mukhtar or Daniel Yazdag or Carlos Gil, Lionel Messi, this is the kind of 10 you need. The kind of 10 that makes life incredibly difficult for the defenders and opens up spaces for everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did today. Jonathan, if you're saying, just stay healthy for
Yeah.
like 5 minutes, man. No, Laurent Courtois said it, right? As a
I
professional
loved his
athlete,
comments.
I think it was probably my favorite answer to the presser. It was a very disappointed Laurent Courtois for many reasons, but his answer on Jonathan TV saying, I loved it. He needs consistency, not just as a player, but as a professional. And I love that because the way he approaches training and everything.
Yeah, I loved what he said, saying, I need to turn him into a machine.
Yes. Because he has the talent. Now it's, can you show up for training every day at this level? Can you show up to games every single game at this level and operate and work within the confines of professionalism? And I love that. And that is why I think he really would have benefited from a loan last year. Because you have him in the CPL, you have him as a for sure a starter every single game that he's fit. You have him in a professional environment. You have him getting minutes. You have him getting everything. Because for the first half season, right, he didn't get minutes. In CPL, I promise you he gets minutes. And I love, because I asked him this question, and he gave me a great answer that I loved, and that he backed himself, and he had his confidence in his own abilities to make out time for himself. And I absolutely respect that. And I agree that he has the talent. But the thing is, that's not the only thing that gets by, unless you're a generational talent. And Jonathan Vivian is definitely more than good enough to play at MLS, but he still needs those qualitative qualities that make a professional footballer. And that's something he has to learn to acquire, which is what Laurent Courtois was talking about. So when those come, the fitness will improve, the resistance to injuries will arrive, all the other stuff that will round out his game and his profile will arrive. But until then, I'm just concerned because I love watching him, and then I'm like, ooh, is he out for a week? Is he out for every single time he goes down, and that's the concern now.
Yeah, and you know what? Good showing. We did talk about Sunusi Ibrahim. Let's talk a bit also about Dominic Yankov. I think he had a good. Was good. He was okay when he came in. I think that he had a golden chance, and unfortunately, he shot on the keeper. I think he did everything right, and unfortunately, his shot was really not well placed. But he is, I think he is the trump card. Dominic Yankov is a trump card for Laurent Courtois. I think that when if this guy can stay healthy, he can do a lot of damage for that team.
Credit to Drake Callender, who had a good game and who disrupted a lot of really good chances, but so many shots were right at him last night. So many, like the goal from Villasang, beautiful, away from him, well placed, but so many shots were directly at him, making his life super easy. And like the Yankov chance you were talking about, but Lasser had a shot, Duke had another shot right at him.
Vilsaus, at the beginning of
in the beginning of the second half, it was a left-footed shot right at him, right? So I think that
we had our chances. We had our chances. But let's talk about. I'm just gonna say one thing about Bryce Duke, and yes, he had a good game yesterday, but again, this guy lacks acceleration. He doesn't accelerate much. He's not pacey at all, and for me, that's a big problem. That's a
we saw the same goal, right?
Yes,
he looked like Oduro out there, man. He was flying.
No, man, no. Come on, he was just he made the right run at the right time.
It was opportunistic, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. He made the right run at the right time. He was very, very intelligent with his movement. But I feel that whenever you're one-on-one, he's just not able to. If he has a defender on him, it's very, very tough for him.
No, he excels in combination play, which is very useful at home and against.
It is useful. It is useful. So,
but that's kind of like what Wellington. That's kind of back to Wellington's point where he's not going to get to the next level. No, but in this league right now, he definitely has his value. Absolutely has his value.
And I agree with Chan. He is an average player. I think right now he is an average player, but he has the potential to be good. I think that's the only thing that he needs to progress on. He needs to find speed. He needs to work on speed.
Where he said we need Messi. but
No,
back
that's
to Mets.
something else. That's something else. We'll talk about that a bit later. Um, I liked his play too. I
Mhm.
agree. I agree with everything that you said, Vincent, everything. Consistency. That's what he needs. Completely agree with everything that you said. So I'm not going to add anything else. Um, let's talk about the wing backs before we talk about the midfielders.
Mm.
Juan and Lassiter. I know Lassiter gave an assist on the second goal, on the Vilsan goal. He's the one that gave that the back pass, Lassiter from the left. Uh, but I think he had an awful game. And same for Juan. Both of them had really bad games yesterday. Uh, yeah, the thing is, the only thing that Juan did well, I think he did well defensively, but offensively, it was
Yeah,
really,
nothing.
really bad. And Lassiter,
Opposite.
if you, yeah, on the opposite, he was okay offensively by giving an assist, but if he didn't have the assist, for me, he was really,
Yeah.
really not that good. So I don't know if you have anything to add on those two.
No, no. I mean, Juan didn't do anything bad. He just didn't do anything good. He was kind of just there, you know.
Exactly. I
To be fair, they don't do anything on the left hand side like Miami. Just as a team, do they?
yeah.
They complete. Gressel and Messi were on the right. Suarez was in the middle, and they said the left can rot. I
Yeah,
don't care.
because Jordi Alba wasn't here. So.
Exactly. So they literally could not care less. So Juan really had almost like the night off at some point. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
And the thing is, a lot of people were saying that two of Miami's goals were because of Ariel Lassiter. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, he messed up his coverage on Luis Suarez. First of all, why is Ariel Lassiter a makeshift left back covering one of the
Luis
greatest natural
Suarez.
goal scorers of ever, not just his generation, not in the league, ever? Why? Yeah, it was opportunistic, but like, why is he marking him instead of center back? And the second goal, right? I mean, not only did he let who was it? Was it Rojas who got the jump on him in the third goal? Not only did he let that I forget who it
Yeah,
was, but
it
let
is.
that player
No,
get a jump on
Kremaski.
him.
Kremaski who
Well, not only
scored.
did let Kremaski get a jump on him and beat him down the field, but he then did the good thing and caught up to him
Yeah, and then he completely
and
fumbled
then
it.
did nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
both goals. Look, I mean, the first goal, I don't only put it on him, right? It's unlucky because his foot was there. If it's a millimeter to the left, Suarez kicks his foot instead of the ball. If Bryce Duke jumps a millimeter higher or doesn't even hit it, it doesn't even jump, it gets cleared out. So, like, yeah, that was unfortunate, but ultimately, that's your assignment. You cover him, and the Kremasi goal speaks for itself. So, yeah, it was a nightmare at the office, right? Bryce Duke had a great game against his former club. Ari Lassiter had a nightmare game against his former club. It's
Yeah.
kind of, you know, two extremes.
And we have Chan asking, maybe other teams have already figured out how to attack Lassiter and Rouen too. I don't really think so because
At least not Rowan. He's not a liability.
I don't think he's a liability. And usually we know that that Lassiter is not playing as a left wing back anymore. He's just he played it yesterday because Edwards was injured,
Injured.
and Chan tells you Lassiter is not even in LB. He never
I
played there
know.
before with
That's why
CF.
I said. That's why I said makeshift because he's
But
not
that's not.
actually.
But that's not true, by the way, Chan. He did play as a left wing back with the Costa Rica national team, and he also played as a left wing back at one time. I don't think with Miami, but maybe the club before Miami, he played also as a left wing back. So it wasn't the first time with CF Montreal, but of course, it's not his natural position. Completely agree with that.
Remember, he only got better at defending as the year progressed
Yeah,
last season. Right? He
yeah,
hasn't played left back in like a month and a half. So
exactly. Let's talk about the midfield. And I can't wait to hear you on this. Mathieu Chouanière, Samuel Piet. Let's please try to talk about them as a group first, not like as a duo, without really going into individual performances. And then we'll talk about individual performances.
I haven't.
How good were they?
I haven't been that optimistic tonight, so it's all gonna come gushing out now. So good.
Yeah, they were amazing.
They were so good.
Amazing.
And we talked about it a bit during the lineup. I was worried about them going essentially 2v2 versus Busquets and Messi. And they did so good. They locked
They
everything
were
down.
awesome.
You could tell that they were looking to break lines because Messi and Suarez were waiting at midfield, and they were kind of just building out break lines, and then you kind of develop from there. I get it, but they did such a good job at keeping Miami stuck, at counter pressing, at really defusing anything Sergio Busquets could do. Samuel Piet, credit to him, who's been a Barcelona fan his whole life, just like me, except I haven't played against my literal idols. He shoulder checked Sergio Busquets like 7 times or whatever, and kept going at it, and it really knocked Busquets off his game. And you know what? Credit to Samuel Piet, because I don't. And as a unit, they were great. This was Samuel Piet's best game of the season, hands down. He was perfect.
It was.
Zero mistakes. He was great in the midfield with the ball. He was great in possession. He picked out passes like I've never seen him pick out passes before in my life. What were though incredible. It felt like Nancy Piet almost, but
I, I
all around.
I tweeted something. I think Piet was more Busquets than Busquets himself.
100%. Because okay, let's be honest, the Miami team as a whole did not play well, and when the
Yeah,
team doesn't play well, Sergio Busquets can't do his thing. He had some really cool moments. He had some awesome shoulder feints, but you can't just pivot and turn on a dime the entire game and be Sergio Busquets, because nothing else is going to happen. But Mathieu Chouanière was his usual excellent, consistent, super strong self. Samuel Piet needs to start at Copa America. He needs to
oh
start.
wow, that's bold. That's bold. That's bold.
We've been talking about I've been
Yeah,
talking about this all year,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this season just reinforced that, because you now have somebody that can do all the work without the ball, and is also reliable as a pivot, and let Steven Eustachio and Ismael Kone do their own thing.
yeah.
This game, if this doesn't convince Mauro Biello to have him as a perennial starter in the national team, I don't know what will. Because if this doesn't get him a starting spot at this point, wrap it up. Because
No,
it,
I
it, it
agree.
makes absolutely no sense. He was the best player on the field by a mile.
Yeah, yeah. I love what Patrick says. He played Messi well.
Oh my
Uh,
god, it's great.
Honestly, it's true. He was amazing. And I don't know if you realized, um I love the way those two set themselves up. In a way, you saw Piet being on Messi all the time, but also you saw a lot of times Mathieu Chouanière go on Busquets. We saw him quite a few times, trying to pick the ball from Busquets. And I think those two made sure that those two players, those two international stars, weren't at their best. They made it happen. They were so good. And again, we talked about Samuel Piet, and I said that for me, he was even more Busquets than Busquets himself. Yes, you saw Mathieu Chouanière nearly scoring a goal with a great shot, with an amazing save from Calendar. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But that was a really well placed. Maybe a bit more power would have been good. So great showing from the two midfielders. Nothing bad can be said about those two. Honestly, if I read one tweet saying something bad about Mathieu Chouanière and
Block.
Samuel Piet, I'll be
No, nothing.
super annoyed because they had a wonderful game.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on with the defenders, three defenders, with Joel Waterman in the middle, George Campbell on the right, Fernando Alvarez on the left. Very quickly, if I can say my 2 cents, I think the best game of Joel Waterman this year. As simple as that. A lot of people thought that he didn't deserve his position, his play. He didn't deserve to be a starter. Yesterday, he proved he needs to be a starter because he was amazing. George Campbell was okay. I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was good because sometimes he was a bit shaky. And Fernando Alvarez had an awful game. in my opinion. An awful, awful game. He was really, really picked on as much as possible. He was way below average, in my opinion, and that's why we saw Sosa coming in. And I liked what Sosa brought to the on the pitch. Really
Yeah,
loved what he brought. He was pretty good.
yeah.
Your two
I,
cents?
look, I get on Tata Martino's case a lot because I just don't like him as a manager. Um, Again, that may be biased from my Barcelona days, but you know what? I just I don't I had my concerns when he took over Miami from a tactical perspective. That being said, he did a great job scouting CF Montreal, that specifically their backline. Because yes, they did not play well. Messi and Suarez were marked out of the game. Busquets didn't have as many options, but he knew to go after the left-hand side of Montreal's defense. He knew
Yeah,
that Raheem Edwards wasn't there. He knew that Ariel Lassiter was going back. He knew that, Alvarez is not the usual left-sided center back. And that's also why George Campbell had such a quiet evening. Because Juan had a quiet evening. Because they completely abandoned the left-hand side. They just
yeah,
said, that's where you're better. That's your better side. Fine. We just won't go there. We'll just
yeah,
go on the right the entire time. I agree with you. Joel Waterman, spectacular. You man Mark Luis Suarez, and all he gets was one tap in and nothing else. No danger, no chances, no nothing. Chapeau. Chapeau.
and
Right?
that tackle at the beginning of the
Oh,
game,
the shot
that
block.
was amazing. Yeah,
Beautiful. The
that
only
was
chance
amazing.
That was the only chance Messi created.
Yeah,
And beautiful sliding block.
yeah.
And look, he was maybe falling out of the national team picture, at least from the starter contend for a starter spot. Games like this is what puts you back in contention, right? You play Luis Suarez
I
like
think
that.
you need to be a bit more consistent. But
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you.
absolutely. But games like this is what
Yeah,
puts you back in contention, right?
of
Games like
course,
this, especially this close to the international window, this close to Copa America,
of
this
course.
has to be his standard until the international break. Because that is the Joel Waterman that got the starting spot in the national team. That is the one who won it on merit, 100%. Alvarez, I agree with you. He seemed a little bit out of his depth at times. Him slipping before the third goal didn't help. I don't think he would have been done much, given that he was flat-footed and it was over him anyway. But just slipping, kind of just cherry on top. Kind of shows that he's definitely talented. He's very good with the ball, but from a defensive perspective, he still has a lot of learning to do.
Of course, of course. He had a
But
big task also, and he's learning. And what I love about Alvarez is how good he is in the air.
very good for someone
He's
who's not
really,
super
really good.
tall. He's
Yeah,
what, like
he's really,
6'1",
really
maybe
good.
60, but he's
Yeah,
incredible in the air. He doesn't lose
he's
headers.
very good. He's very, very good. So we'll see. The I think in the future we're gonna see Campbell, Waterman, and Sosa. I think that's the starting
I think
back three.
that's
Uh, I hope that we'll see Corbo at one point, and especially when you're playing away from home. I think that would be nice to see someone that's a bit more defensive and has a bit more of a defensive approach. So let's wait and see. And finally, let's talk about Jonathan Sirois. And before we talk about Jonathan Sirois, no, in order to talk about Jonathan Sirois, I'll ask Robbie's question.
yes.
I heard Grant Needham say on the post game on TSN 690 that Sirois should not have let in that first goal from that far out, even though the shot was quite good. Do you guys agree with this? And then you see Grant, adding on this, top keepers in the world need to make that shave 30 yards out. Let's talk about Jonathan Sirois. Let's talk about his positioning on that famous goal because let's face it, that goal doesn't go in, Miami is nowhere to be seen.
No, they go into halftime. I don't think
Yeah.
they even have the momentum to get the corner and all that stuff. They probably go into halftime down 2-0. Whole lots of ifs and buts and maybes and whatevers.
Yeah.
But
I do have the picture that you asked me to.
I'd like to pull up this picture here.
Let's go.
Because this is the instant before the free kick goal. What is Joel Waterman doing? Joel Waterman is in the middle of your screen.
Yeah.
Why is he directly in between Jonathan Sirois and the ball?
Line of sight. Yeah.
Because
I
rewatched that goal like 3 or 4 times after I saw Grant Needham's tweet and Robbie's tweet. I was like, I gotta see this for myself because initially I thought perfect free kick, nothing Silva could do. And you could see if you replay, we're not going to replay the video here, but you could find the video
No.
on everywhere. He does take an extra beat to react to the shot. And I
Yeah,
realized it's because he
he doesn't
doesn't see
jump
the
that
ball.
much. Yeah, he doesn't
It's
jump
because
that much too.
exactly because he takes an extra stutter step before
Yeah.
reacting to the shot. And it's because he doesn't see the ball. So yes, like Wellington said, free kick, spectacular. Chef's kiss from that far out, placing like that, beautiful. I was like, wasn't Messi off the field because he got hurt? How is he taking this free kick? Spectacular. What is Joel Waterman doing?
I love that picture. Good choice of picture, Elias. And
Because
for me,
I've seen enough
that
of Jonathan
shows.
Sirois.
Yeah,
I've seen enough of Jonathan Sirois to know that he would not react this poorly to a free kick from that far out.
yeah, I agree.
And I
I agree.
think
And you
that's
know
the thing.
what? Yeah, I completely agree that yeah, it's maybe a mistake of Joel Waterman on this. The line of sight
I'm not
of
blaming Joel
Sirois.
Waterman for this. I do
I
think
think
that
it's
they both could have done a little bit better, maybe, but ultimately it's just a split second. It's just very, very unfortunate timing, and you
and
learn.
and, and you see Jonathan Sirois trying to look and to
Yeah,
even
you see
push
him
his
tilt.
head a bit more to see the ball, and he's like, and at the same time the ball goes the other way around, so he has to quickly, backtrack and go the other way around, and that's why you see him not jump that high.
Yeah, the
Um,
wall was well
yeah,
placed. It's just,
very, very,
and at the
yeah,
same
yeah,
time, if this ball hits the post, then nobody thinks twice about why Joel Waterman is there. But here we
yeah.
are talking about it now.
Yeah, but I also think that if you move that goal away, Jonathan Serrois
I
had
just
a
want to
good
reply
game.
to Chan. If you rewatch the video, Joel Waterman is behind the wall. He moves
Yeah,
over, he moves in front of Sirois at the last second. That's what messes it up. If he was in front of Sirois right away, Sirois would have yelled at him to get out of the way. But you see
no,
him come across to cover Suarez, and at the exact instant the ball is hit, he's in front. It's really just super unfortunate timing. And
nah, this
you know,
happens.
it really is just, So I think, I agree with Grant, and I also don't agree with Grant. I think Sirois could have done better, but there was external factors at play here. There was the mysticism of the cosmos and the reason Miami wins all these damn games. It's just soccer gods and all that nonsense.
No, I agree. I agree. So this is for
That
our
being said, in possession, Jonathan Sirois, very good.
in possession, but also
Ball, very strong.
those chances that were offside, he won maybe
Still safe
three one-on-ones.
against
And
Messi. Against
one
Messi.
against Messi, no, one against
Two.
Messi,
Two
and
Messi.
two against Messi. Exactly. So you know what? And at one point, I was like looking at the crowd. Okay, and you know what? The crowd that was singing Messi's name, and I was like, "Si,
Oh,
roi, si, roi, si." But yeah, it was funny. By the way, I watched the game from as a fan this time. I wasn't in a media with the media because I really wanted to watch the game as a fan, and it's been a while, so it was really fun experience and very frustrating experience too. Let's answer all the questions of our listeners. So we did answer Matt B. We did answer Robbie. Let's answer Dr. Foot. Will Messi have a positive, medium, long term effect on the league? Messi Mania, one night tourism. What do you think, Elias?
we talked about this when he first signed.
Yeah,
They have to make sure that they use Messi to highlight the league and not use Messi to highlight Messi. Right? They can't just be like, look at our teams. We have Messi playing against them. No, it's we have Messi playing against MLS players. And yes, he is cooking everybody, but he's Lionel Messi doing it. At the same time, watch all the nice and attractive, entertaining football being put on display while Messi cooks these players. That is how you grow the league long term,
yeah,
because that is how you properly display a league. Unlike other leagues that bring in these big players and showcase these big players because they're big players, like Saudi. You want to do it to grow your league. You want to do it to showcase your league.
yeah,
It brings eyes and spotlight to your league. That is how they create long term. And I think they've done an okay job. Because at the end of the day, it's this eternal struggle between the sporting desire to grow your league and the marketing and the corporate desire to sell Messi and Messi and Messi mania, like Dr. Foot's hashtag. So I think that there is this struggle here, but I think they're doing all right. They could do a whole lot better. I think sometimes there's a little much on the Messi, and this comes from me, right? So I mean, but they have to do a little bit more on focusing on the everything around the
I
league.
agree. Use Messi's image to promote other players.
Mhm.
You know, the head-to-head. Messi is gonna play against,
Exactly.
Samuel Piet and Mathieu
Georgi
Chouanier.
Mihailovic.
No, then he's
Oh,
gonna
I'm talking
play
about
against
Montreal.
Mathieu.
Montreal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like let's Mathieu Chouanier. Mathieu Chouanier was an all-star last year. He was so great. He was the MVP of the club. Grow the other players of your league. Grow the
Look at
other
all these
clubs of
Canadian
your
internationals he's going up against.
exactly. Okay, and I'm talking about Montreal, but it could have been anybody else. Playing against
That's why I said Georgi
Colorado. Exactly. You can talk about Mihailovic. Talking about New York City FC. You can talk about their Brazilian. There's so many good players on this league that you can use Messi's image to talk about them. And honestly, I've been someone that learned that way. It happens. I've been watching soccer since the end of the 80s, and I can tell you that I learned so much about players because I was looking at my team and I was like, okay, who are we playing against? And then at the beginning of the game, I used to watch and hear and listen to all the comments of the other team saying, you know what, this guy is so good. This guy is so good. And I'm like, okay, let's watch this. Let's watch this guy. Let's watch this guy. And this is how you learn your soccer, right? So
Yep.
I completely agree with you. I think you can build around Messi. And right now, I think MLS is unfortunately not really doing a good job on that, even if at the end of the day, marketing wise, they're doing an amazing job. It's just that if you want to help grow the league, it's not only the marketing, is put take a bit of spotlight from Messi and put it on the other ones. So that's something very interesting that needs to be done. Moving on, we have a question from Tate. Who do you think will start as our striker Wednesday night? Who do we think will start? We're not sure. We're not Laurent Courtois. Who do we think should start? I think we said it already. And for us, it should be Sunusi Ibrahim as a striker. So I hope this answered your question, Tate.
Championship.
And then we have another question from Tan saying, why do we always have formerly attacking winger playing left wing back? Chouanier, Lapoline, and Lassiter. They are clearly better up the field. How hard is it to get someone like Kai Wagner? I'm asking because 2 of the 3 goals involved Lassiter yesterday. We have Edwards, who's more of a defender. I'm going to answer this first, and I'll let you jump in right after. Just let you know, Tan, the most difficult position to cover, or the most difficult position to find good players at, is the left wing back position after the striker role. Striker and left wing backs are the 2 positions where it's very, very tough to get a nice player. A player like Kai Wagner, it's not so easy to find a player with that good quality. And don't forget, Kai Wagner was a big, big, big gamble too, right? He came in. I think he played in 2nd or 3rd division in Germany. It's hard to find those gems, those players that are really, hidden in a way, and find them. That's why you have such a great sporting director in Ernst Tanner with Philadelphia that's doing an amazing job. But he was playing with the kickers, the Wurzburger kickers in Germany. I think in Division 2. It's Division 3.
Division 3.
Division 3. of the German soccer pyramid. So it's hard. It's very, very hard. And Kai Wagner was a great pick from Philadelphia. And so
Yeah.
I understand that's tough, but sometimes I think you need maybe to spend a bit more money on that position. We did it on the striker position, and that's what we got. Joseph Martinez and Matias Kokaro. I think that's the other position when you need to spend a bit more to have a talented left wing back. Anything to add, Elias?
I think Raheem Edwards is doing a bang up job. I think that he's really solid, right? I mean, the performances he's had is far
Yeah,
more good than bad. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, strengthening the left back position could be really very, very, very important. If every team could get Kai Wagner, they would have gone Kai Wagner, right? If they knew what would have happened, you know. But that again, that goes into just why Philadelphia's been so successful for so long is because they are so good at creating sustainable, quality MLS players that want to stick around. Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, credit to the sporting director. But yeah, if they could find another left back, they would, because Ariel Laster up top has been much more impressive than Ariel Laster at wing back.
yeah. So Patrick asked any news on Opoku. I didn't see him start
He
like
was
in the.
he was still on the in the crowd in the stands with the other injured players.
Oh yeah, Kokaro too. But did you see him at training? Like, did you hear anything about him being at
I haven't
training?
heard
I didn't
anything
hear
about him
anything.
though.
I didn't hear
He's not in a
anything.
boot anymore, so I mean,
Yeah, but he was supposed to be back for that game from yesterday for yesterday's game, right? That was what was announced.
oh really?
Yeah,
There will be much to discuss when Laurent Colton meets the media tomorrow, or no,
yeah.
Tuesday. No, tomorrow.
Not tomorrow. Tomorrow. So very, very interesting. Let's answer Wellington's question that was asking about uh or here. He says, Hady and Elias, from your own perspective, do you think the season is over for CF Montreal this year? Give it to me straight. We're going to tell you something, Wellington. We're always very straight in our answers. Unfortunately, some of our answers, people don't really like them. But you know what? We're going to stay true to ourselves and give our own opinion straight. Let's take a look at the standings. CF Montreal is in 12th positions with 12 points, with 11 games played, with out of the 11 games, 8 games played on the road. And you look at that, and honestly, right now, I'm very optimistic at seeing CF Montreal be in the playoffs because if you get one of the two injured players of Martinez and Kokaro, you play more home games. The way we played yesterday was a very positive game. And for me, it shows that CF Montreal has what it takes to be in that top 9. Maybe not top 6, but top 9. I don't think they're less talented than the teams that we see there. That's my opinion, and I'm giving it to you straight. Elias?
I was talking about last year how if they stayed healthy, they were a playoff team. But you know what? That doesn't mean anything because availability is your best ability. So that doesn't really matter whether or not they stay healthy. At the end of the day, they've gotten a third of their away games out of the way already, done.
Yeah.
And you're only 2 points out of a playoff spot with games in hand on like half the people in a playoff spot with a game in hand. So at the end of the day, you've played Miami twice. You've played and you've won one of them. You've gotten 3 points out of 6 against Miami. You've played Cincinnati. You've played Orlando. You've played Columbus once after this. By this show next week, they'll have played Columbus twice. All these top teams, they've already gone through, and they have not yet faced some of the more teams that are struggling. At the same time, whenever they play teams that are struggling, they get blown out of the water. So I don't know what that means. But at the end of the day, I think that all these home games and the way we've seen CF Montreal play at home, there's no reason to be concerned. I think fully healthy, I'm gonna bring up fully healthy, they're top 6. I think with them right now, with the way it is, they have no reason not to make the playoffs. None whatsoever. Because the 2 best teams, the 3 best away teams in MLS right now, Miami, Orlando, Cincinnati, all 3 are done. So the rest are regular MLS away teams, which are statistically not that strong. I think that they have everything in front of them to comfortably make the playoffs.
I wouldn't say comfortably, but I think they will make the
I'll be
playoffs.
I'll be the optimist and say comfortably.
Let's wait and see what's gonna happen in the night. We do have a question from Chan saying, "What do you guys think about TFC and the derbies this coming weekend?" Honestly, I don't like to talk about TFC, but I still, it's a derby, so it's gonna be interesting as usual. Hopefully, we'll win against them. They're a very strong team. John Herdman is great at motivating players,
Assuming they're not suspended.
assuming they're not suspended exactly after what happened with against New York City FC. But I think that quality wise, I think we're as good as them. So let's wait and see if we're able to confirm that. I think the most interesting game and the most important game this week is not the game in Toronto, but it's the game against Columbus. I think that's the most important game of the week because you're playing at home again after a great showing against Inter Miami. You need to confirm that by winning against Columbus. So let's wait and see. Okay, third topic and last topic of the day. We didn't talk about Montreal getting a draw in Hamilton 1-1 with the B team. That's pretty good. Bryce Duke scoring another goal there. So 2 goals in 4 games, by the way. Even if he didn't have a great game. So you know what? Good 1-on-1, I think, on the road. So that's pretty good. So can't wait to see the game in Montreal. Anything to add on this?
No, I mean I wasn't super impressed with it, but you know what? That's fine. It is
Everybody
what it
was talking about that game against Inter Miami, but you know
yeah.
what? Our eyes were all on Saint Laurent, on CS Saint Laurent this Tuesday, playing against Toronto FC at Centre Claude Robillard. Honestly, I loved that game. Loved that game. The way those guys played, they played 60 minutes 0-0 against Toronto. They were so good against that team. But unfortunately, when you're semi-pro team playing against a pro team, at one point you don't have gas
The
anymore.
damn
And
brakes. Yeah.
then unfortunately you have some very annoying decisions that didn't go your way. And then it's at the end, it's a 3-0 loss for CS Saint Laurent. But what a game. What a game from CS Saint Laurent, Elias.
Amazing.
Tell me all about it. We watched it together. We're sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
What a great game from that team.
Yeah, no, that was the first professional game I got to watch as a spectator, purely as a spectator, since the 2021 Canadian Championship final. Um, and it was so much fun to be in and around that energy. That was unlike energy I had felt in a long time. Um, I think that they've set the stage easily. The ball is now in CPL's court to kind of make to get this off the ground. I think there's still a lot of things that have to happen, both funding and infrastructure wise, but absolutely if it's a concern of interest and if it's a concern of people showing up and showing support, you'd be a fool to think that Saint Laurent it can't draw people. Right. Yes, this is TFC and this Canadian Championship. It's a big deal, and they won't get 7,000 people to every game right away. But this is still just the beginning. And it was an incredible display of community soccer. And it's one of the reasons I love Canadian Championships so much is because it's the intimacy with which all these games are played. Even, like we talked about this at the game. Those Canadian Championship games in Montreal that are midweek that have like 8,000 people there, and it's not a big crowd, but it's intimate and it's people who love ball. Right? They go there to watch soccer. They go there because they love watching soccer. There's no people that want to, show off clients, no people that are just like, oh, let's go to a soccer game. No, this is people who want to watch soccer, and it's so much fun to be in and around
I
that
will
kind of.
add something. They want to
Hmm,
watch soccer and love CF Montreal.
exactly. And with Saint Lo, it's going to be the same thing because it is a community. And yes, having played against Saint Laurent my whole life, there is definitely the this rivalry aspect of it where it's like, yeah, it was a bit weird actively cheering on Saint Laurent, having played for Dollard and coaching for Pierrefonds my whole life. And we have this blood feud with Saint Laurent that goes back millennia, it feels like. But at some point, the lover of community soccer, it wins out. And you can't help but feel like, this representation of Quebec soccer, in a time where Quebec soccer felt a little bit under attack, right, with everything going on in the club and everything going on with Mathieu Choignard and all that stuff. So I think that ultimately this is a niche that Saint Laurent can definitely thrive on. The youth, there's so many young soccer players and so many young soccer fans that I saw at that game. That made me so excited because even if you go to a semi-professional game of League One Quebec, they're very well attended, and the people there are so young
Yeah,
because it's friends, it's people they know, or it's the club they know, or it's just because, hey, it's there and it's affordable. That is your draw, and that is how you're going to get people in the door. And Saint Laurent already has so much for a semi-professional team, has so much quality. I have every confidence that they'll probably be back in the Canadian Championship next year as the winners of Ligue 1 Quebec. This is how you grow, and this beating Wanderers and then taking, going shot for shot in the first half against Toronto. That was also a message to the league saying, we're not there yet, but this is what we could do with people that work that don't do this professionally, that do this as a passion and as a hobby, and on top of that, that just came off work, or that have been, that haven't had a professional environment in however long, and they just went shot for shot with an MLS team and some of the best players in the country. So I think everything about that night could not have gone better for Sinaloa. Absolutely could not. I mean, result notwithstanding, from first half and atmosphere and everything, it could not have gone better.
yeah. I think they had quite a few chances also during that game, and I think they were a bit nervous every time they had a chance. They would sky it,
How can
and
you not, right?
yeah, it was a bit difficult. But let's talk about that first goal for Toronto FC.
Mhm.
That great shot from Longstaff. That was really really amazing. And then talk about that second goal because right
Uh,
before you had that handball in the penalty area. Uh, I watched the replay so many times, and I still can't confirm if it was deflected off the foot of someone before reaching the hand or not. I can't see
it,
it.
it was a blocked shot, right? And I
I
was
don't see
talking.
it blocked. I see it blocked by the hand sometimes, and sometimes I see it blocked by someone else and then going on the hand. Because let's face it, if it is deflected by a foot and then it goes on the hand, that's not a penalty, 100%. But if it's
It's
not,
that's not 100% true though, because Mabika's not the one that blocked the shot. So, and I talked to my brother, who is the resident killjoy, the resident buzzkill that never lets us have
and
fun
I
or ever
met your
complain about
brother,
refs.
man.
And
I
yes, how
met
do
your
you know
brother,
my
man.
brother? And the reason that we're never allowed to complain about refs because he's always freaking correcting us and all this. Um, the main consideration. So by every definition, in terms of natural body position, in terms of ball to hand, in terms of all that stuff, it's a handball offense. The only consideration that would have resulted in the ref not calling that is proximity, and the fact that the shot and the deflection happened so quick. Even if his hand is like this, does he have the chance to get his hand out of the way?
I don't
Because
think
the
he
shot
has.
happened so fast, and he's too close to the ball to get his hand out of the way. that is a consideration that I'm assuming that, if there's an evaluation, it was probably an evaluation or some kind of report that gets filled out, and when talking about that handball, that's most likely what they're going to talk about is the proximity that Mabika's hand had to
Yeah.
the ball and the fact he couldn't get out of the way. That being said, his hand was so out in a weird
Yeah.
position that, like, you can't help but be like, why is this not handball? And I
Yeah.
think the and this is, this kind of gets to the crux of what I spoke about my brother about, and the the handball law is such an ambiguous law,
Oh yeah, it's
such
just
a buff, kind of, yeah, it's a handball or no, like, for an attacker, it is incredibly well defined. And it's like this XYZ. It's very, for a defender though, it's so ambiguous. And it's like, and it's almost like I instantly thought of like when the Supreme Court defined pornography, and it's like I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. But it's like that should not be the way you dictate what is a handball and what is not, because at the end of the
yeah.
day, DeAndre Kerr misses the net on that chance, and everyone goes, "Oh, it should have been a penalty," but whatever, c'est la vie. The fact that he scored immediately afterwards, that's the best way to just take the air out of not just the player but the crowd, right? Everyone's shoulders dropped
Yeah.
because everyone was like, "That's a penalty. Oh my god, they're going to equalize," and it went from that almost like euphoria to 5 seconds later they're down 2-0, and it's like, "Oh, this game is over." So it was incredibly disappointing. But at the same time, I feel for those players, but the fact that they were even in this situation is still such an incredible thing.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Again, I think it was a great night for soccer, for
Absolutely.
semi-pro soccer. And let's face it, guys, those players that played against TFC, against Bernadeschi, who scored a goal, a fluke, let's say it that way. Um, those players that played against that team, they had a job before. They were doing their 9 to 5 job. They just wore their shirts and they went to play a game against CFC. I don't think people are realizing that they're not professional soccer players. They
But
only
they're good
train
enough to be.
twice, 3 times, or 3 times a week. They don't play. They don't train every day. So give them that chance, And
Mhm.
at one point, someone needs to understand that we deserved a CanPL team in Montreal. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Laval and Quebec." You know what? We deserve a team in Montreal. Maybe another one in Quebec and another one in Saint Laval. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but I think there is enough soccer lovers in Montreal to have a second professional team. We
The only
are
the only other
big
club
enough
that's
city.
close to that could do it from just like being a big enough club is Blainville. That's the only other club that could realistically do it. But
Yeah.
Saint Laurent is so far ahead of them right now that, which is
But
crazy
Saint
because
Laurent is so
Blainville
far
had a
ahead of
massive head
everybody.
start. Blainville
I
had a
know.
massive head start.
I
Blainville
know.
was the dominant force in
I
PLSQ
know.
before it became New York, Quebec. And Saint Laurent kind of just swooped in, and
No. CSMRO has always been also at the top too. So not
CS
only
Emero and Blainville were like,
yeah,
Madrid and Barcelona, where it was just
exactly.
those two always fighting.
And then it
And Saint
became
Laurent,
Saint Laurent and
Laval.
CSMRO. But CSMRO also. They were second last year.
Oh, they were, okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, Laval,
Yeah,
Saint
he's
Laurent
my
came
old
in.
club, huh?
Saint Laurent came in out of nowhere almost, and really just showed how you properly run a club. It's an incredibly well run club, um, for a non professional club. They're absolutely the blueprint that every other club in Quebec should follow. I've said the word club too many times now.
Yeah, I know. But it's okay. But it's okay. Um yeah, very, very interesting, I think, for CS Saint Laurent. So hopefully we'll see them. And they're very interested into being a CPL
Oh
team.
yeah, I mean they've
So
publicly lobbied for it,
yeah.
so the
So
ball is in
hopefully,
their court. The ball's in the league's court now.
exactly, the league and investors,
Yes,
potential investors. So
they they
hopefully we'll
they,
find.
they
And
should. Sammy Fruit, let's go build
let's
a
go.
new field.
Let's go. Good. So that's it for today. Let's look at social media very quickly. We have 5 social medias. So let's
Lightning
go
round.
with our segment. Elias, you can take it from here.
Lightning round. Let's go. Yes. First tweet. Yes, Dr. Foot. Short to long term, CF Montreal will be sold and stay in Quebec, sold and relocated, or Joey keeps his toy. Hady, what do you think happens?
There's the club is not going to be sold. The reason behind it is that usually when you're preparing a sale, you make sure that you reduce the value, the player pool, the squad, the quality of the squad. You try to sell as many players as you can. You try to make sure that you don't have long-term contracts before you sell. And this is not what happened with CF Montreal. You have Matthias Kokar, you have Joseph Martinez, you have those players that signed Dominik Yankov, came and signed multi-year contracts with big salaries too. It's not looking like a club that wants to be sold. It's not looking that the owner is saying, you know what, my club is ready to be sold either. Because when you have those big salaries, of course, uh, you just if you're preparing to sell, you're just gonna get rid of that big salary of those big salaries. Now everybody's gonna tell me, you know what, we're the lowest in salary in the league. I agree, but again, you need to make your club as attractive as possible. And I don't think that I'm not seeing that, honestly.
Hmm. I don't see it either. But you know what? At this point, you never really know what will happen.
Next week.
Yes, this is from Martin Bailey. Lionel Messi has faced 131 clubs in his career. He has a goal contribution against 125 of them. Only 6 clubs that have kept Messi's name out of the score sheet include TFC and Montreal. Leo has never registered a goal contribution against a Canadian opponent. What is it about Canada that makes
I
Lionel
don't know.
Messi? And does that does that make you optimistic for when Canada plays Argentina in Copa America? You think
No,
they'll bring
it
some of that
doesn't.
Canadian soil?
Nah, it
No,
doesn't. It doesn't
no,
at
no,
all.
no,
No, but
no,
that's
no,
that's
no
very
delusion
interesting.
to like kind of hold on to.
But that's very interesting, from
Hmm?
CF Montreal point, 2 games that they played. Yes, one game Messi didn't play in, but again, a whole game yesterday. Honestly, he wasn't that good yesterday, Daniel Messi.
No, Montreal did an excellent job of kind of
Yeah,
nullifying his assets, right? Because you can't take Lionel Messi out of the game, but you
no,
can take his tools out of the game.
yeah,
And I think that's what they did exceptionally well, and that every ball he played was covered. And same thing with Sergio Busquets, right?
yeah,
If
exactly.
the most dangerous pass is covered, and you're not going to win the ball off them, but that doesn't mean that they can't. That doesn't mean they have to hurt you.
Yeah, agree, agree. Moving on, third tweet.
Yes, this is from Niton George. I wanted to wait to experience it before conforming, but I was more excited to see CF Saint Laurent, the CF Saint Laurent guys against TFC at Claude Robillard, than Lionel Messi at Stade Saputo. Very weird. Where do you stand on this? Do you agree with Niton? I kind of. It was weird. Give the way he played. I kind of agree with him. What do you?
Honestly, I wasn't at all waiting for the game against Messi because what happened for me, I was really expecting what happened, and I was really expecting fans not cheering for the club, and for me, this drives me crazy.
Mhm.
At the same time, I had no expectations whatsoever for CS Saint Laurent. I was going there just because I thought it was fun and I thought it was a great way of showing your support for local soccer. And you all know how much I love showing my support for local soccer. So I had no expectations, and that's why I completely agree with the tweet of Nathan George that I had some great, great, great time at the CS Saint Laurent
It
game.
was so fun.
And yesterday, I had a fun time. I loved the game against Miami, but I was so frustrated at the end, not because of the result, but of I'm gonna be very honest. I heard some people. There was a gang just behind me of about 6, 7 people that were chanting Messi on the um on the same tune as CF Montreal chants. So
Oh,
Ale, Ale, they would say Messi, 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 Messi. And honestly, you laugh. I wasn't
yeah.
laughing. I
Yeah,
wasn't laughing.
that can be extremely irritating. I
That
get that.
was so insulting. You
Especially if you're
know,
from Montreal. Like if you've traveled to see him, then it's whatever. But
I don't know. They were Montrealers because they
oh,
were doing that on purpose.
yeah,
And every chant of the 1642, they used to repeat it with Messi in it.
that's
It
lame.
was very, very, very disgusting.
Ban them
Honestly,
from
I
the
was,
stadium. You are banished from the stadium.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's why for me that game, I'm so happy that it's done. We can move on to real soccer and to CF Montreal talk, and for me, that's what's
Absolutely.
important. Moving on to the next tweet
Yes,
from
this
W
from
Soccer.
W Soccer. According to this source, Grosso to NWSL is on. Do you think that's the right move for the Canadian? Hady, we know that Beth Priestman does love her some NWSL players. And look, I mean, Serie A is not necessarily at the same caliber as some of the other big European leagues. What do you think about this?
I like this. I like this. I think that Julia Grosso needs to be in a club where she can play. I don't know if she has enough exposure with Juventus and in Serie
Mhm.
A. And she's not a striker, so you're not gonna hear much of her because she doesn't score like tons of goals like Evelyn Vian. Evelyn Vian, even if she plays in Sudan, if she scores 60 goals a season,
Yeah,
you're gonna hear about it, right? But for Julia Grosso, I think she needs to get a bit more exposure. I would love to see her, playing in England, in France. The NWSL, I think, is a good fit.
I know that Arsenal are losing some midfielders. Maybe she can, but I don't think she'll get minutes at Arsenal though. That's the thing.
We'll see. We'll
No,
see what's gonna happen. But
Arsenal's so good. It's
she
incredibly
needs,
competitive.
yeah, she needs to have exposure. That's 100%. So
Agreed.
maybe a move from Juventus is not a bad idea.
Maybe she'll go join up with all the other Canadians in Portland. Who knows?
Let's wait and see. Moving
This is
on.
our last tweet from William Cassette. For those who are wondering why Corbo wasn't there on Tuesday, this is the reason. So it is Mother's Day. We'd like to wish everybody here, obviously, a very happy Mother's Day. But also, we'd like to wish a happy Mother's Day to a new mother. Congratulations to Gabriela Corbo and his wife Georgia, who welcomed Ricardo. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you and Ricardo at Statsaputo very soon.
Exactly. Exactly. So congratulations for the Corbo family altogether. Hopefully, we'll see Ricardo play for CF Montreal in the future in a few years.
Or at least ring the bell, you know.
At least ring the bell, exactly. So let's wait and see. But that might explain the absence of Gabriel Corbo in the last few games, also because
Well, it's
sometimes
probably why he wasn't there on Tuesday. I don't know about yesterday because he
you
was on
never
the bench.
know.
He was on the
But
bench, right?
yeah, but sometimes maybe the pregnancy is a bit tough, so mentally you're not ready.
You're
I'm
tired. You
just
do have a newborn, right? So I'm sure
exactly.
that that's also
Oh, that's
demanding.
gonna come, man. He's gonna be tired in the
You're
next
speaking
few
from
weeks,
experience. Yeah.
in the next few years. So we'll see about that.
Say goodbye
But
to
yeah,
sleep, Gabriela.
and to close this off, we do have the pop sport.
Passport. Passport.
We have the pop sport. So CF Montreal, Columbus Crew. What's your
Hmm.
take on this, Elias?
3-3.
Oh
I think it's
wow!
going to be very entertaining. I'm going with 3-3.
No, I'm going with the win. I'm going with the 2-1 win for CF Montreal.
All right. We'll see if any of us get the shout out for being perfect.
Yeah, we'll
And
see. Guys, so that's gonna close our episode today. So we're a bit under 2 hours. We said that was gonna be a bit of our
a
promise to
beefy
always
episode.
stay and under 2 hours. As you guys know, we do have a banner here for those that are watching. A product is always going to be free. If you want to help us grow the product, feel free to join our Patreon page. You can find it on our Twitter page, TBIR Montreal. We do have the link there. You can join and be a Patreon for sure and help us grow this product. This is it. This is all. Thank you very much for your time today. Hope you liked it and see you next week for another episode of The Ball is Round.